Hey, it's Truth Seeker 333. I was just driving around and I had to pull over and make another video because I've been going through quite a bit dealing with this possibility that I might be on the autistic spectrum. And I've been thinking a lot about the struggles I've been having over the years at work, and how work has always been very stressful for me. I think more so than others. But you tell me, because I'll explain some of the things that I've gone through, and let me know if you can see a pattern in this. So, one of the first things I can think of is well, first I started out with a lot of service jobs, so those were a little easier to deal with. But when I first started to see some issues is when I started working in office environments. And it was around it was around 2004. I started working for an aerospace company in contracts, and I worked there from 2004 to 2005, and they hired me on. I was working as a contractor. And they saw my abilities. They saw how detailed I was. They saw how efficient that I could be. And so they hired me on. And then I started working a little bit higher of a position, in a level 2 contract administrative position. And I ended up getting a different manager, a different personality type of a manager, which it wasn't just me. I mean, there was a lot of conflict there with that management. But aside from those issues, aside from the management issues, I kept getting hung up a lot on the policies and the procedures. And it wasn't because I was not following the policies and procedures. It was because I was continually asking questions about the policies and procedures, about how the policies and procedures should be applied, and getting upset about how those policies and procedures were being interpreted and applied, and trying to act as an agent of change to make that situation a better situation, for everyone involved. Because I've always been a win-win type of person. I want everybody to come out ahead. I want it all. I want the system to work for everyone. And that's not what I saw. What I saw was everybody out for themselves, every department out for themselves, every department utilizing policies and procedures for their own benefits. And so, on top of this, I was being measured for the amount of work that I was putting out. So, okay, so already I'm sort of targeted, with a big bullseye on my back for being a whistleblower or, just somebody who's just can't get along with or causing issues or something, And so on top of that, I'm being measured by the amount of, purchase orders that are going across my desk. And I'm constantly not meeting the quota, okay? And the reasons that I'm giving have to do with following policies and procedures, okay? Like, I can't approve that order unless this form is filled out, or, I'm doing, there's too much work on my desk, and it's like I can't, it's like I'm constantly overloaded with trying to stay on top of following up on that, insurance or whatever it is that we needed to get from that supplier. And so I'm not going to not follow the procedure. I'm just going to continue to follow up and say, we need to get that. I can't approve the order until you send me the insurance. And so in my eyes, I feel like the majority of people are just bypassing these policies and procedures to get their work done. Maybe that was the case. Maybe it wasn't. Okay. Maybe it was a little of both. Okay. But it really got to the point where management was putting me into a human resources process to train me, to like assist me in ways that I can like get my work done quicker, which ultimately was no help to me at all, because human resources was just a mechanism that they utilized to show that they were trying to do their part or something, And so ultimately, when the economy went down in 2008 and they had massive layoffs, it didn't matter that my technical skills were, like exceeded everyone. It didn't matter that every customer and supplier that ever talked to me gave me rave reviews, and that, all my coworkers, appreciated me. Ultimately, it was like, you're not meeting the metrics, and I was identified as a person who was not a team player. But I suppose it was because I was not a team player with that manager. So that was my first big lesson in making sure that whatever job I had, that the manager was the first one to placate and just, not go against, So for me, it was like, okay, life's not fair. And, people say you have to be a team player, but the reality is you just have to like shut your mouth and just make your manager happy. Okay. So for me, it wasn't like I'm struggling with autistic spectrum or anything like that. It was just like, but now when I look back on it, I'm thinking, this has a lot to do with like obsessive thinking and, you know, getting caught up in the details and like getting kind of stuck and not able to move forward, you know. And so that's like my first example that I can kind of give you. Now, the second example that I can give you is that in my most recent position that I was in for the last 3 years, I was working as a billing analyst. And again, it's like I've kind of moved into these roles of like analyst type positions because what I keep telling myself is that it comes easy to me. I'm very much able to like see patterns in data and understand like why those patterns are there, you know, it was that a like data input error, or was that like the result of you know, some other anomaly, like something more major, you know. And so now I'm just like, okay, that's what I am. I'm an analyst. I'm a bean counter. You know, I should just stay in those fields. But even having that technical level, you know, like my Excel skills are like advanced. You know, I'm like, you know, 10 plus years using Excel and spreadsheets and like, you know, utilizing Visual Basic and macros and pivot tables and nested if statements, sum arrays, and then, you know, utilizing Access and database and understanding, you know, database. And it's just like, even having all that knowledge is not enough to keep me employed, because I feel like I'm not connecting. Like the last job I had, I thought it was just because it was, you know, it was in Orange County, and like I wasn't part of like that, you know, clique, you know, because it's not that I can't connect with people, you know, it's not that I can't, you know, have relationships with my coworkers and such. And that's what's so great about going to work, is because, you know, you're around all these people that they would never hang out with you anyway, but it's almost like, you know, they're forced to hang out with you, and they get to know you, and they're like, oh yeah, Scott, he's a cool guy, you know, but, you know, like, why is he never look in my eyes or anything like that, you know? Okay, so people, when they get to know you, they look past all those idiosyncrasies, you know, they look past that, and so it's kind of nice to like have that interaction, you know, like when I go to work. But this last job I had, I didn't have that, you know, and it was a real small accounting department, and I kind of felt very isolated, and you know, I would walk up to my management and they would be like laughing about some other individual, like making fun of their shortcomings, you know. So then I knew, okay, well, you know, like when I'm not around, they're laughing at my shortcomings, you know. But one of the problems I had with that position was I kept telling my manager, like, this is too much work. Okay, number one, it was too much work. Okay. I mean, talk to any accountant or analyst or anybody like that, and they'll tell you that every accounting department out there doesn't have enough workers. Okay. So on top of it being too much work, I'm sitting there having like my obsessive thinking processes and like going through my billing audit process, you know, for like 25 some different customers per month for month-end close. And it got to the point where like like almost on a daily basis, I was working like 10 hours a day. And then like when it got to the month end, I was working ridiculous like 15-hour days. And like everybody has gone home and I'm like sitting there all alone, and I'm like I have to get this done precisely. I have to get it done correctly. You know, the customers deserve the best. And, you know, it's like, I'd mentioned this to my boss a few times, you know, and it was like, and then after a while, I was just like, I can't do this. And so like I would lapse back into like just working 8-hour days. And of course I wouldn't get anything done. And then some of my work would like spill off onto my manager's desk or to my other coworker. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm getting written up because you're not getting your work done. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm not getting it done because I'm not working overtime. And it's like, it was a struggle for me, you know, because like my manager would look at me, he'd be like, I know it's too much work, but this is our job and you got to get it done. And I was like, well, all right, you know. So it's like I didn't know what to do. And he just kept like saying like, well, you have to like, you can't get stuck on one thing. He just kept saying that to me. You can't get stuck on one thing. You got to move on. You got to keep moving. But it's like, the way I think, it's like, if I skip a step, then it throws everything off. I lose all track of coherence of what I am doing. And it's like, I kind of leave breadcrumbs, you know, in like each cell or different areas of spreadsheets that I know, okay, well, I did this, now I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to filter this way, I'm going to do that, you know. And it's just like, on top of that, you got your management saying, okay, why are you doing that? Why are you getting stuck in it? Just move on to the next thing. And it's like, I can't. In my head, I'm thinking I can't, but I can't tell my manager I can't do that, because it's like, if I tell my manager that I can't do that, then he'll be like, then why do you have this job and why are you doing, you know? And so it's like, even though I have all these wonderful skills and I can get it done and I can do it, it's not fast enough for everybody. It's just not fast enough for everybody. And sometimes it is. I mean, it just, you know, it's just that when there's an overload of work, you know, it just seems like I can't, you know, I'm dealing with too much. And throw any extra stress in there, you know, like my mom passed 3 years ago and I got two weeks off to grieve, but then it was just like right back to the spreadsheets, you know. And it was like, I just feel like I've just been numb ever since then, and I cannot find my center. So eventually they had a reduction in workforce there. And of course, you know, I was on the list to lay off, and no reason really given, you know, just, you know, Scott's on the list for reduction of workforce. And you tell me, is it because am I on the autistic spectrum is the big thing right now. And I'm been very emotional about this all today, and I've been thinking about it. And so in the last 6 months, or, you know, a little over 6 months, I've been looking for work, and I've had like 2-3 interviews, and I've had a couple of temporary jobs that only lasted like 2 and a half days. And it was like, first I went into these interviews, it was like, okay, first of all, nobody ever gets back to you regarding if you made it through the next, like, if you didn't make it through or not anymore. So it's just like, go to an interview like 2 weeks later, nobody has ever contacted you and said, oh yeah, we went with somebody else. It's like, businesses are like so overwhelmed now, they don't even get back to you. And it's like, I don't even know what the reasons are of why they didn't choose me, you know. And of course, if they said to me like, oh, well, this guy, he doesn't give good eye contact, he doesn't seem confident, or We didn't feel like we connected with him or whatever. And it was just like that. I would love to hear that. I would love to hear that so that I could like work more on my eye contact and my confidence. Cause like, that's just something that I'm becoming more aware of lately. And I thought I was looking at people in the eyes long enough, but apparently I'm just like, maybe I'm 3 seconds shy of, like not holding that gaze a little too much, too long, or like not long enough or something, aside from the fact that I have this lazy eye and that's always given me a reason like to not look people in the eye. 'Cause I don't want them to, be like, where are you looking? Are you looking at me here? Or are you looking over there? But, so that's always kind of like given me an excuse to like kind of look down and like, but it's like for me to like look at somebody and talk, it's, not a natural thing for me. And it, obviously it's an uncomfortable thing, but, so I was thinking, okay, yeah, I went to this one job. It was a temp job. And the guy was training me like for a whole day. And then like I went back the next day and it was like their HR person took me into the conference room and was like, oh, well, yeah, it looks like this project's not working out. So we're going to have to send you home. So I was like, okay, so I called my recruiter and I told her and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I'll look into that. And she felt really bad. And, I wasn't given anything like, so I was like kind of suspicious. Nobody said anything negative about me. And, so then I got another position over at this other place like a week later. And I worked there the whole day and I talked with one of the, coworkers there and I was giving them, like some of my ideas about their database and how they could, improve this process. And they were really impressed. And, like I showed some other stuff that I did. And at the end of the day, the manager was like, oh, well, I'm going to be heading out of here at 4:30. So I thought, oh, okay, well, she wants to go home at 4:30 every day. So maybe I should come in at 7:30. And then she was like, well, actually, we'll call you when we hear back from our IT guy, when he like puts, some of your stuff, hopefully he can put some of your stuff that you suggested into practice. And but I kind of got the feeling like there was a couple things going on. Like maybe there was, like actually a budget issue. Like they really didn't have the money to like keep me on as a temp or whatever. And it didn't work out. And then like the other thing was like, I just didn't connect with that manager on a level that they felt confident to like invest in me more or something. But, so I'm just been really frustrated lately. And, I called that agency back. And then I was talking to a new rep who didn't know me because like they hadn't met me in person, and all of a sudden they were just like, oh, we saw you win a couple jobs and like they sent you home, and it was like all of a sudden I was like the odd man out, and like there must be something wrong with me for not being able to hold on to a temp job or something, and nobody was telling me like, okay, well, the reason they didn't want to keep you on was, X, Y, Z. Nobody said anything to me. Nobody said anything. And so like, I'm kind of upset right now. And because I don't know if this is just like a bad sequence of events or if this is really like a revealing of a pattern now that I'm kind of becoming aware of. Anyway, looks like it's getting dark here. Put this light on here. Oh, there we go. Anyway, I've just been very emotional today, and I have a lot of homework I got to do because I've been going to school, but I can't, for the life of me, get started on it because I keep watching videos about autism spectrum, and I keep realizing that like all of the symptoms there line up exactly with what I've been dealing with my entire life. So anyway, I know that I'm going to be okay. I'm just so worried about all of the relationships in my life. Particularly my wife and how she's handling it right now. But I love her, and I want to learn how to let her know that I'm always thinking about her and that I'm not trying to ignore her in my life. I'm just not, I just don't realize, maybe, if this is the case, a worst case scenario, I think, is if I just realize I'm just like socially inept in a lot of ways. But I'm thinking best case scenario is if I find out I'm on the autism spectrum. At this point, I feel like it'll be a relief. So anyway, God bless everyone. Keep seeking truth, and peace be with you all.